Another thing that I think is very important to understand is what the hazards actually look like down in the wire and obstruction environment. What does the enemy look like? What will hurt me if I don't know about it? And again, that isn't something that you normally learn, that we as pilots normally learn in the normal aviation mainstream education. When you're looking at things like guy wires, and when you're looking at things like static wires or skylines or conductors, we don't learn about that traditionally as pilots unless we've been fortunate enough to be mentored by somebody who really understands those hazards. So having a firm understanding of what the enemy looks like in this environment, I think, is so terribly important, because what you are ultimately going to see down there is going to be a product of what you expect to see. Expectation plays a major role in identifying a wire and obstruction strike accident before you get there.
Chilla resident. Sheriff's investigators say the pilot was doing a maneuver to keep frost from settling on the vines when he clipped the power line.
The wire environment just essentially sits and waits for you. It really doesn't make a whole lot of difference what your particular mission profile is. Now, there are some industries like power line patrol that have a greater tendency, because their exposure to the wire environment is so much greater. But the wire environment is just as deadly to a firefighter or to a military aircraft or to a crop duster as it is to a power line patrol pilot.
I mean, basically wires are in every environment that we fly in, low level. And you know, whether you're landing at a scene or coming in on approach or even flying into shock trauma, you have towers, you have wires, and they're basically in every aspect of our flying.
One time we were flying a patrol on a line that we fly several times. We fly it 3-4 times a year, and I've flown it several times. And you had briefed all the crossings, you'd made the checks that you normally do, and someone had strung a new wire. That was this kind of copper wire that was new and fresh. And it was right below one of the major hilltops where we're going over this area to go back down the hill and patrol a wire. And I was flying along, coming up a hill, and the light was from behind us, the sun, and coming up, that copper blended right in with the rusty background of the trees, and the fall trees, and flew right over the top of it about 100 feet, luckily. But right about the point where it was in front of my skids, it just lit up because of the light. And you saw there's a brand new line right there below me that could have been terrible. That was just above the line I was flying, so definitely a dangerous hazard.
New technologies may one day be deployed widely enough to help pilots avoid obstructions. But today, and for the foreseeable future, there is no substitute for the knowledge that experienced trainers can provide.
I think some of the important things that are on development is the manufacturers making wire strike protection systems a standard piece of equipment on their aircraft.
Technology is a wonderful thing, and we've seen some real innovations just lately in wire and obstruction strike avoidance come to the marketplace. But there again, it's important to remember that technology is nothing more than a fail-safe. It's certainly no substitute for training.
If I could emphasize one piece of advice, it would be this. Pilots notoriously have the misconception that they will see wires in time when flying at wire level, and you just can't count on it.
If there are a couple of messages that I would leave with pilots, they would be as follows. Number one, when you're dealing with transmission lines, you're in a corridor. And particularly if you're in a helicopter, that corridor is moving to and fro. And you may have vegetation issues in there as well. It may be only 150 feet wide, that sort of thing. You always have to be vigilant.
Pilots, as with all phases of flight, have the ultimate responsibility to avoid wire strikes. And that includes making sure they do an extensive and complete pre-flight planning, making themselves aware of any potential wire environment or obstacles that might be in the flight path that they're planning. Also to see and avoid while they're actually in the air flying, and to ensure that they really realize their responsibility. Normally you have passengers with you or persons of property on the ground, and you have a responsibility for those lives and that property. And your actions really could result in someone else's death, to be quite frank. Not even the least of your own, of course, when you're flying. So I think pilots have to understand that they cannot acquiesce that responsibility to anyone else or assume that just because they were flying in a particular area and there was no obstacle or wire there the day before, that doesn't mean there isn't one there today.
I think if there was one point that I would want to see come out of all this, if there was one thing that I could communicate, it would be the fact that wire and obstruction strike accidents are preventable. They're completely preventable if the pilots and crews take the time to understand what the enemy really looks like, understand what the hazards are down there. The important thing is to understand is that that isn't rocket science. It's not difficult to understand. It's just having a set of basic awarenesses. But you simply have to have those awarenesses operating the entire time you're in that environment.
You know, we lost four really good people in that accident. And the primary, you know, the original hit on the helicopter was from a wire. Two pilots, Jeff or George, weren't the type of people that took chances at all. They were very, very, very conservative on weather, on all that kind of stuff. So there was a reason they were there. Even the best laid plans can come up with some problems and force you into the wire environment. I don't know what to say. It's still really a raw nerve. We're quite a lot like a family here. You know, a lot of times we spend 3 meals a day here together. We train here together. We work together, and it was more than losing employees and friends. It was really close to home. So they're all trying to deal with it the best they can. And you know that's really hard to have a helicopter and 4 people leave and never return. It's tough, you know.